Here's the brutal truth on why you'll never lose weight with sleep apnea unless you apply what we're about to learn. You see, when you have sleep apnea, it is this vicious cycle that sleep apnea leads to weight gain makes sleep apnea worse, and just goes back and forth. And the odds are entirely stacked against you. You see, when you have sleep apnea, your hormones that make you feel full and stop eating, they're not working. And then as a result, you eat more, you struggle with cravings, and another big issue with another hormone known as insulin, this will prevent you from being a fat burner, and instead you'll be stuck storing fat no matter what you do, no matter how many calories you restrict, no matter how much you exercise. Your food will just go into your fat cells and make it hard to lose weight, which is why you'll be so frustrated if you do try to do that. And then you'll be caught in this downward spiral of where you're frustrated, you're tired, and you just can't get out of it. But with what I'm about to show you, and is also backed up by the research that a bit of weight loss can go miles in terms of reducing the severity of sleep apnea and allowing you to live a happy, healthy, energetic life in a body that is just easier to move around and feels great. So that's why in this episode, I'm going to show you how to break this metabolic cycle, how to break the sleep apnea cycle, so that you then have a clear step by step plan for easier weight loss and refreshing sleep. I'm Dr. Dylan Peckus, your guide in naturally overcoming sleep apnea. And if it's your first time here, or if you're a repeat watcher, go ahead and click subscribe so that you can stay up to date on the latest and greatest and also get this message out to the world. So, the first big message for you is how to break this metabolic cycle. Let's talk about the king energy hormone that is critically important for you. So, again, just to break it down more specifically, when a hormone known as leptin, which tells your body to stop eating, it's not working anymore when you have sleep apnea. And then ghrelin, which tells your body to eat, is way high. It's really high. As a result, it's telling your brain that you're hungry all the time. Then you're going to eat more. And as a double whammy, which I forget which game show that is. Which is double whammy? Does that make a deal? That's not important. What is important is that insulin is not working. As a result, then you store fat and it's hard to lose weight. We've gone over that. But what we need to talk about is the one hormone to control them all. This is the Lord of the Rings hormone that can turn you from a Gimling into whatever Orlando Bloom's character was, Legolas. So let's talk about leptin. Super important here. Again, leptin is something that will go up, or it should go up. It should go up after you eat. Leptin is something that should go up as you're eating or as you're burning a lot of fat. So, what we need to understand is that when leptin is working, this will then lower ghrelin. It's a very important directionality. If you get leptin to work, then ghrelin will go down and then you will eat less. Is it easier or harder to lose weight when your body naturally wants to eat less? It's a lot easier, right? Then the next big piece of this is that once leptin is working again, then something known as insulin sensitivity is better. That just means insulin now works. Okay, we don't need to get in high and low. We don't need to get into that. But what we do need to know is that insulin can now work. So again, leptin works, insulin now works. Now you can burn fat. You go from someone who's storing fat all the time, then now you have the capacity to burn it again. This is how we attack that metabolic cycle I was talking about earlier, in which your metabolism drives sleep apnea, and then sleep apnea makes your metabolism worse and just goes back and forth and causes that downward spiral. Specifically, when your leptin's bad, this will cause more weight gain, but also you will have a metabolism that favors sleep apnea, regardless of your weight. Big distinction, okay? And you know this exists because whether it is eating different foods, whether like a lot of sugar or maybe like alcohol or other different things, even medications or supplements, they can have a metabolic effect that drives sleep apnea. It's not purely anatomical and mechanical. Now you know. Didn't before. And just to make sure I'm not some, person just saying stuff on the internet, ooh, YouTube doctor, cool. I like to bring evidence to what I'm saying. So here's an article that talks why reducing leptin is so important. Because otherwise, if you are just starving yourself, exercising a ton, if you don't correct leptin, then it's going to be an uphill battle. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying it's very difficult. Now, that's there. We know how to break the metabolic cycle. I'll give you the exact details on how to do that. I want to get the concept down first. I want to lay the foundation before we're just like throwing strategies against the wall like spaghetti. So let's talk about how to break that sleep apnea cycle next, my friends. That is the second big piece here of where we're dealt with our yellow stars. Now we're going to talk about the green star because obviously, if we just attack one aspect of this, but then the other one continues to rage on, we don't get complete fast resolution. So we need to deal with all of these wild swings in oxygen. That's what intermittent hypoxia means in fancy talk, and sleep fragmentation, bad sleep. Because as long as it goes on, then this will continue to make leptin and everything else bad. So really, fixing leptin is only half the battle, and it's not enough by itself. You also have to deal with the sleep apnea. So just to do that, because maybe you've tried a CPAP or mouth guard, it's not working, or maybe you're doing those things and you're still tired. That's the case, then guess what? Your sleep apnea is symptomatic. It is basically the same as untreated sleep apnea in the literature if you're having symptoms. So kind of a big deal. So open your mind to this. If you're not familiar with all these things, is that the fundamental driving core mechanism of sleep apnea is from this. You think I would just give you the point? No, we got to build up to it. So 1953, back in the day, before I was ever born, they found that hyperventilation could induce sleep apnea. It would close off the airway. And in case the armchair researchers like, but that's an old study. Yeah, all studies are by definition old. There's no future studies you're going to read, right? And this is the same idea of today, that airway inspiration triggers the collapse of the airway. So breathing in triggers the collapse of it. That is to say, whatever is going on with your anatomy, adenoids, uvula, tonsils, take your pick of the 20 plus different factors that can get blamed as the sole contributor of sleep apnea. It's only a risk factor. It is like dynamite. Dynamite by itself is not a problem. Dynamite with a match is a huge problem. So the anatomy, jaw, tongues, nose, etc., that can be dynamite. But the ultimate trigger is the breathing pattern that develops because of anatomy or for really any reason that can happen. Because when you start to breathe faster, because if you have a more narrow anatomy, it's like breathing through a straw. You got to breathe faster or pass out. Most of us pick to breathe faster. Well, I mean, our body picks for us. Then, as a result, you get cut in half. No, you don't. This is just an anatomical thing. All right. What happens? You have a fast inhale. Now it's going to pull all of these floppy, lovely tissues into the back of the throat, such as the tongue being one of the biggest culprits. And the tongue's a problem, even if you have a problem with your nose. It all comes down to sort of this area in the back here. So that gets pulled by a fast inhale and the airway's blocked. So what should we do? I mean, you could totally blast air down there and just, call it a life with a mask on. You could do that. Also, probably an easier way, it's just to slow down your inhale so that you're working with your anatomy and almost sidestepping more of the less pleasant. You're avoiding the less pleasant ways to approach this. So slow inhale keeps all your good old floppy tissues in place and airway stays open and happy, and you're happy. So this is breathing retraining, where half the world decides to spell apnea with an O. Nonetheless, this is a great review article and just a few snippets of some case studies. So I think I have patients, I think there's 3 of these, so stick with me. Just to prove the point, they were at severe, which means 30 plus on the AHI, and they got down to less than 5, which means pretty much fully resolved. Next, we got this patient at 21.6, and then after they did the breathing retraining, down to 2.1. Pretty good. And then patient E, where were they at? 27.5 down to 4. So pretty good with just breathing exercises. Now, they may have done other things like weight loss, of course, but breathing exercises were a big part of their resolution, and that's why I took that road for myself and for many of our clients and you starting today. So that's what that second big star is, to correct that breathing pattern. Because once you do both, it's like 1 + 1 = 5, which isn't bad math. It's an example of synergism, of where you combine 2 things and then the sum is greater than the parts. Okay. And if anyone ever corrects you on your addition skills again, just say synergy. And then they will start to feel like they're missing something. And then they will know you're intellectually superior. Just an advice. So just shout buzzwords. That always works. Like shouting buzzwords, the best way to sound smart. Synergy. See, I'm doing it, right? So that's why the second big thing is to correct that breathing pattern, go from fast to slow. And then that's what allows us to have a step by plan to actually reduce sleep apnea issues and the weight as well. So if you're having fun so far, or maybe not fun, maybe you feel learned it, you feel some hope, you feel like you're making some headways or some breakthroughs, then do me a favor, subscribe. Click that subscribe button, which is just underneath the video on desktop, tablet, and phone. And if you're on your Roku, you got to press a bunch of buttons like you're playing Super Nintendo system. But the reason to do this is because future videos, which there are many of them, you'll get updates and be like, hey, do you want to watch this or that? And chances are you do, because it's about sleep apnea, which you're probably curious about if you're here. And also, it tells YouTube that, hey, other people with sleep apnea, they may want to know about this too. So really appreciate the subscription there. And again, if you got Roku, just hit up, then you navigate towards my face, left or right, click my face, then the subscribe option will magically appear. No interruption to your watching. Now, what are we actually going to do? What's the step by step? Step number one, reset leptin. We're not going to get into high or low. That's not what we're talking about here. We're going to simplify. We're going to reset it, make it sensitive again. Top 3 ways to do this: higher protein at breakfast, more monounsaturated fats, or MUFA if you want to sound cool. There's a buzzword again. And use buzzwords, instantly sound like an expert, and also using high intensity interval training ish. Okay, well, I'll qualify that in a moment. So, first thing, higher protein at breakfast, it's just higher than what you're currently eating. There's not really a set way. I would just think about adding 20, 30 grams of protein. And the way you can know that, I mean, I guess you could hire a personal chef, but for everyone else, I really like these trackers. This is My Net Diary. This is one of my favorites. You could also use MyFitnessPal. There's a whole bunch of them, but this is a great way to get a baseline on how much protein you're eating. And then how could you hit that target? Simple as that, whether it's adding Greek yogurt, some eggs, having leftovers from dinner, having me cook you stuff. That's not a viable option. I'm sorry. So that's for the protein. Then for more MUFAs, these will be more things like avocados, some nuts. You also catch some of that from, I mean, I guess there's more PUFA, polyunsaturated fat here. Uh, Fish oil pills should not be in this picture. There's some pandemic of where if you Google a picture for like MUFA, it will show you half of what you actually want. So really just go for avocados. If you want to be super simple here, let's just kind of zoom way on this. And then, are these acorns? Who makes this stock photo stuff? Like, what career path did I miss? Clearly, you don't need to have any level of qualification here. Just, yeah, no one will notice. So, MUFOs, and then I'll have a guide at the end of this episode. I have a list for you. All right, I got your back. And then for high intensity interval training, it really varies on where you're at. You may have limitations in your joints or your back. Well, I guess knee joints or back. So you want to keep that in mind. This can be whether it is kettlebell swings, it could be using a bike, it could be doing sprints, burpees, something like that, of where you're doing 5 to 10 minutes of this high intensity training a couple times a week. And one of my favorites is a Tabata style, Tabata. Sounds like it should be a slogan for that. Anyway, that is something where you're like 10 seconds, intense effort, 20 seconds off. And if you're feeling really frisky, you can flip it around, but it's the general idea of where you're on for some bit, you're doing the exercise intensely, and then off, and then repeating that cycle for about 4, 5, up to 10 minutes. So that's something to incorporate. Now, if you are feeling sleep deprived, still do it. This is why I was saying ish, but you don't need to do as many minutes. They've shown in the research literature, I don't have it here, but doing a small amount of HIIT exercise can actually be incredibly beneficial if you are sleep deprived, even if it's a little bit. Step 2 is to reset breathing. So this is an adaptation of the original exercise I did in overcoming sleep apnea. And there's different levels to it we can get into. So it's going to be a half inhale through your nose, and then a max exhale. What I mean by this is a maximum duration exhale. I'm not talking like max force, you're trying to introduce a new Gulf Stream to the planet. Not talking about that. I'm talking about nice and slow out your nose. Nasal breathing for both of these. And as you do this, you may actually find a half inhale, so like half your capacity or half the time, however you want to look at it. You may feel like you're starving for air at the end of that. Not really great. So if that's too difficult, you can go to a normal full inhale and just do really slow inhale, and then maximum duration, slow as you can, exhale. Yeah, I don't need to bore you and stare at you at the same time, make this an awkward interaction, but you get the idea. And then as you get adjusted to this, you can go to a half inhale, 1/4 inhale, and like smallest inhale as possible. That's just one of the basic exercises just to start with, because I don't want to just bombard you with information. Just get started on this. Ideally, 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes in the PM. That'll help reset how your brain tells your lungs to breathe, and then you'll have slower breathing. Like I said, take it from fast breathing, closing your airway with that trigger, to slow breathing so that the dynamite of your anatomy is not being triggered as much and your airway stays open and you're happier. So this helps to break this cycle here. So that's great. Now we're no longer like chasing our tail. Now, how do we start to move forward? That's step 3. It's pretty easy. Just track your weight. And honestly, at first, you may not need to reduce calories because I don't mean to say that leptin and doing a bunch of things to affect it. You still need to eventually have some level of calorie restriction. At first, you may find just by doing 1 and 2, you'll probably lose weight just because now things are working. Things are working a lot better. So don't jump ahead. Like, this is the biggest mistake people make, is just like instantly restricting their calories. Because if you restrict your calories before leptin and sleep apnea is fixed, it can make this worse, or it'll take longer to fix. That's not exactly what we want. So you want to fix these things, and then some good signs are you'll have better energy, you'll have better cravings, like fewer cravings. Then over time, as you start to hit a wall without reducing calories, then you reduce calories. That's going to be the most sustainable way to do that. Because once again, just without really even tracking calories per se, by fixing this, weight loss can and will happen. And then from there, use your handy dandy tracker to see those calories down further and further. So that's how you do that. Now, for all these written down things, I promised you, that's what this is. The weight loss and sleep apnea guide, where you get a summary, some more details, and some examples to help you implement this. And I would be remiss if I didn't also tell you that we have the sleep apnea reset protocol workshop available for you. And this just gives you an even deeper dive on correcting this underlying breathing pattern so that you're able to, just be in a place of where breathing more correctly and be able to scale that and progress even faster in that aspect. Because the faster you do that, the faster everything is way better with your sleep. I'll put a button on screen so you can look at that and get more of the details around that. Now, for both of those, I'll also put the link in the description. So it's really easy to find on desktop, but if you're not, like if you're on your phone or a tablet, just click the title. Description pops up. Click one of the links you'll have there. Super easy. There will also be a icon in which you can press for that. So super easy to do, and even make it super duper easier is I have some URLs for you. So for the free guide, go to ochnow.com/wait. And if you want the reset protocol workshop, go to /reset. And if you're in the QR code, scan the one on the left for the guide. Or if you want the one on the right, scan the one on the right. The reset protocol's on the right. And of course, if you're here and you're proud and you're awesome, make sure to subscribe so you just get more awesome stuff and videos and mediocre jokes. Because who doesn't love that? Either way, I'll put these back up for you. Thanks for watching, and I will see you on the next page.